Hey everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel, where today I'm going to talk about why structure is so important if you're struggling with depression, and other little tidbits of information about depression, some of the myths, the prevailing myths in our society, especially in the mental health world. Why, you hear people, oh, just take it easy all the time. Just take, whenever you're ready, get back to work. And that's actually one of the worst things that you can do within reason for most people struggling with depression. Of course, it's a case-by-case thing, but we're going to go into that. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this video. Again, that is Phil at OCDrecovery.com. We work with people all over the world. There's obviously so much high comorbidity with depression, CPTSD, GAD, panic disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, loss of a loved one, cancer diagnoses. We work with every single really tough situation, not just the really extreme OCD cases, even though we work with that more than likely, more than any organization on this planet. So the most important thing to cover before we even go into structure is that this idea that depression is primarily a chemical imbalance as an origin is simply bullshit for most people. Yes, there's genetic, the biology component, physiology, all the big fancy words that people like to use, but that's not the majority of the cases. If I sat down with 1,000 people who've been diagnosed with depression, major depressive disorder, or just depression, and I sat down with them and I got to spend an hour with every single one of them, I would imagine 950 to 975 of them are caused by very unfortunate events with obviously some biological and environmental origins, sometimes bigger than others, but primarily their belief systems, the way they view the world. They have very strong, primarily conditional life, but also conditional self and other acceptance, and they have very poor behaviors, and they have the fear of the hyper-awareness of just like a groinal response or a sensory motor like a blinking or breathing OCD. They have that with the depression sensation, and then they're chasing the present moment. Then they're chasing to get the depression symptom go away. I rarely see anyone online, no matter what letters are behind their name, explain depression correctly at all. I don't care if they've been in practice for 40 years. I know many people that have big channels, and I'm not right, incorrect, not true. It's just because you do something, just because you play basketball for 50 years, does not mean you're good at basketball. That's a really important point to highlight. So it's hard to talk about this without breaking down. And again, like I always said, this isn't just tough love. It's just the reality of life. We've moved the ground so far underneath this like victim mentality and the world needing to cater to us. And people go through really hard times. I mean, you're talking to someone that was in the mental hospital. The cops were at my house a few times. I didn't want to leave. All sorts of self-harm stuff going on. I mean, addiction. I mean, it was bad. It was really, really, really bad. But the more I lived in this world of the world needs to act a certain way towards me, people have to treat me a certain way, the world is unfair, I went through an event. I mean, when you look at people, even though there's differences, of course, between CPTSD/PTSD, I don't like that they separated CPTSD and let's just call it PTSD and just keep it at that and stop giving people more and more diagnosable names, because that creates more and more problems. And then you combine that and you look at that or correlate that with OCD. There are differences, but if I sat down with 10,000 people that have moderate to severe PTSD, I can almost bet my entire life the mechanisms behind the depression, not the flash memories, not waking up in the night, but the depression component, if it's there, what the PTSD is. I shouldn't have seen that. This is terrible. It shouldn't have happened to me. I can't believe I went to war. I can't believe that happened. I can't believe I was in a motor vehicle collision and my friend died on the back of the motorcycle with me, or a daughter, or watch my parents die in front of me on the way to church and their car got T-boned. This is not taking away what you went through. It's not discrediting it. We work with people with the empathy and compassion component, but too much empathy and too much compassion with no realism and no practicality of how to apply belief systems and breaking down behaviors when it comes to depression has terrible outcomes for recovering from depression. So now that I gave that kind of background opening, which actually went a little bit longer, when I work with people that have or suffering with depression, do you need to know for sure if you have depression? No, you can just start applying the principles and breaking down the belief system. So let's go through some basics. The book's on our reading list, OCDrecovery.com, underneath the resource tab, especially book number 1, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything, Yes, Anything. That book will teach you about the belief systems that are fueling your depression. But this video is primarily about life structure. Yes, the depression sensations will be there. Yes, the person will be struggling with the feeling of the heaviness, like a Dementor from Harry Potter, sucking that out of you, whether there's a shame or a guilt component, whether it's just clinical depression. And again, I don't even like these terms because it doesn't matter what we title it. It's about unconditional self-life, other acceptance, whether it's real or not, and consistent behavioral changes regardless of how you're feeling. But we complicate things with all these special diagnoses and special names and terms that just leaves people feeling even more hopeless. When if I had primarily a depression like clinic, and I worked with people with only depression, there would be no diagnosis, wouldn't matter to me. It would be, okay, what are your belief systems? Let's go through that. Let's break those down. I have a big whiteboard in the room going through that. What are your behaviors? What do those behaviors look like? And let's start changing those behaviors. So to recover from depression or give yourself the best possibility to recover from depression-based fears, the chances are if you're in bed all day, these are big ones. In bed all day, nightmare. Watching adult websites and smoking vape pens all day, absolute nightmare. Isolating yourself, absolute nightmare. Not engaging in social events, which is similar to isolation, nightmare. No fitness, no exercise, skipping meals or binge eating, absolute nightmare. When people come in, they say, I don't understand why I'm depressed. It's hard because I have to take a bird's eye view because maybe they really don't understand. They've never had this explained to them before. But when I look at an oversight of their life and I look at their structure, it's usually very, very, very poor. So I say, let's start getting up at a decent, reasonable time. A lot of people are not working for understandable purposes. And let's get you outside. Let's get you moving. This is not a cure for depression. You hear a lot of people, so-called depression experts saying, get outside, that's not going to even touch this on the belief level. Yes, the structure is so important for learning to bring the loss of connection with you, learning to bring that sadness or guilt or shame or all of that with you for the ride, but you still are going to have to work on your beliefs. But again, back to structure, because it's a structured thing. So not isolating. Stop it. Stop this introvert, extrovert. These are nonsensical terms that have no basis in reality whatsoever. There is no such thing as an extrovert, and there is no such thing as an introvert. People are extroverted and introverted depending on where they are, the situations they're in, what their day looked like. Did they have an argument with their spouse? Are they in a really good mood? Are they on vacation? You limit your life primarily when you label yourself, which most people with depression will do, I'm an introvert. No such thing, doesn't exist. You cannot categorize 8 billion people into 2 words. This is just fucking dumb. It's just straight out dumb, and it has no basis in reality whatsoever. And Jade has talked about this in her old videos ad nauseum. She goes, I labeled myself an introvert. And for so long, because I labeled myself that, when I started to recover and change my beliefs, she goes, maybe I wasn't as introverted as I thought. And that was using it as a self-diagnosis. Because you hear people like, well, Nick, I have depression. I also have PTSD. I also have OCD. I'm also an introvert, Nick. I'm an introvert. It's like, stop that. I'm not discrediting what you may or may not have. Let's focus on the things that matter, which is getting up, moving, practicing decreasing procrastination as a skill, building that skill over and over and over again. That is what actually matters when it comes to decreasing when it comes to increasing your chances of potentially getting better from depression. The reason why I say potentially, typically, because there's no guarantee, right? But let's be frank. If you start changing your structure, if you start really going for things in life, if you learn to wear the feeling of loss of connection and depression, and you change your belief systems, most people get better. There's just no guarantee. No one wants to hear that because a lot of I need a guarantee I can get better. You can change that belief system. You do not get a guarantee. But look, if you go to the gym 5 days a week, regardless of your genetics, you don't have to look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. You could have crappier genetics. If you go 5 days a week and you train really hard, or 6 days a week, use some cardio, chances are in 5 years from now, you're going to look a lot fucking better. It's just the reality of life. We don't need all this science about like this and that. I'm telling you, we overcomplicate things. This doesn't mean recovery from this is easy. It doesn't mean changing your belief systems and changing your behaviors is easy by any means. You hear people, you're saying like it's so easy. No, we're not. We have thousands of videos explaining why it's not easy, but that doesn't mean and should not deter you from the fact that you have to really try to build that structure. And it's going to feel miserable in the beginning because you trained yourself to be in that like, I can't do it. Why is me? Woe is me. So getting outside a little bit, getting back to work, decreasing some of those instant gratification habits is huge. Going out with friends, trying to go on dates. Stop waiting to feel good to do that. There's no right time. The structure behind depression is not the only piece of depression recovery, but it's one of the most important things you could do. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Let me know what you think. Hope to hear from you soon. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day. And stop using the terms introvert and extrovert. Obviously, as you could tell, it's one of my pet peeves because it's insane. It's literally insane. Could you be any more black and white than calling people two words? It's like saying, this is my communication style. No such thing. No such thing as love language. No such thing as law of attraction. No such thing as communication styles or love languages. It's depending on the person's beliefs, how they were raised with some psychoanalysis, but not spending too much time on that like people can do, how they feel in the moment, what situations they in, and they adapt. There are times where my wife's love language could be connection. I'll go a little bit off topic, but it's key because this is good for everyone to hear. This is why people get so depressed too, because they're like, well, I can't be compatible for people. And it depends on the mood that she's in. And the same thing with me. Am I really hyper? Did I have a lot of, which I usually am, did I have a lot of coffee today? Did I work long hours? If I work long hours and I go to the cigar bar on a Saturday and anyone talks to me, I have literally done this. This is the light bulb's my cigar. Yeah. And I just turn my chair. And I've seen people be like, okay, I don't want to speak to you. I want to be alone. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I choose to do. Any other time, maybe I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Wow, that guy's an extrovert. He's a eccentric extrovert. It's dependent on so many different factors. People do not think deeply about this. Very surface level posts on this stuff. Very surface level posts on depression. You got to hear that. Phil at OCDrecovery.com. Let me know what you think. Hope to hear from you soon. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.